I came back down to this and 250 grams of filament. Now that blows my mind. This stuff is a little bit past its prime. Welcome back, folks. Today we're going to be looking at the Plus 4 from Qidi. I've had this machine now for about 3 months, and I've put quite a few hours on it. So one of the things that I wanted to do today was test out some new filament that I got in from Sunlu. It is their matte PETG. This is something that Bamboo did with their PETG HF, and most PETGs are going to be shiny. If you take a look at Elegoo, eSun, those are just the two that I have laying around here in the shop. They're very, very shiny, even before you throw them into a printer. The Bamboo PETG HF, however, has a very matte finish to it, and that's what I'm hoping for out of this Sunlu. Now, full disclosure, Sunlu did send over 4 spools of this matte PETG for us to use. I did ask for orange, and then of course, I've also got red and green because those are colors that I use pretty often in here. We're going to be trying a few of those out today. I do have some white as well. One of the things that I had a question about the other day was those bins that I put the dog keychains in, and if they're available, or if they work rather, to scale up. And actually, those bins are scaled down from the original size. So the answer to your question, yes, you can scale them and they will still work. So the first test that I want to do is comparing 2 different types of filaments. Some regular Elegoo PETG, the rapid PETG anyway, which you can see right here off the bat is very, very shiny. And if we take a look even through the package at this matte PETG from Sunlu, we can clearly see a difference already. The reflection that we see off the side of this is not there in the Sunlu. So now that we have that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get the Elegoo loaded up into the Plus 4 right now, just so we have our base for our red. And while this is running, I am going to put this into the dryer. This has already been through the dryer, just came out a couple hours ago. So we should have perfect luck with this guy. Let this guy dry up a little bit before we start printing with it and go from there. So the loading and unloading process on the Plus 4 is super easy. Go into Control, we'll go up to Replace Filament. Since we have PLA in there right now, it's maybe if it'll focus, it's Elegoo's gold PLA, their silk gold. We can unload it at 220. You can see here we're only at 50 degrees, rapidly heating up, but I'm able to go back here and just pull this out right away. I don't even have to wait because it cuts the filament before it actually heats up. What it is doing is heating up so it can flush out any of the remaining filament that is in the nozzle. So that's pretty cool. And you can see it right there, flushing the remaining gold out of the nozzle. And the machine is returning materials. When it's finished purging all of that gold, we'll see filament unloading completed. See there, it just flung the poop out the back. And we are ready to load up our PETG. Doing that is super simple. Just feed the filament in through the little PTFE tube until it stops. Right about there. Then we can come up, hit load, next. And since it's PETG, we'll load it in at 250 and it will proceed to heat the nozzle back up to 250. One thing about the Plus 4 that I absolutely love is how quick that nozzle heats up. On the same side, it cools down just as fast. So that is partially a negative, I guess. But for heating the nozzle up, super, super quick. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of help here. Right on the screen there, it says, please continue to push the filament. So I'm just going to feed it into here until the machine kind of takes over and does it for itself. You can see right there, it is slowly changing to the red. All right, so it's finished loading. If we'd like to, we can hit retry. And what that will do is heat the nozzle back up, purge a little bit more filament to make sure we have all of the PLA out of there. And once that's finished, we can hit complete and move on to bigger and better things. Before we head over to the computer though, let's get the matte PETG loaded up into the Sunlu filler dryer. Sunlu filament in the Sunlu filler dryer. I have links to this down in the description below if you'd like to pick one up for yourself. Okay, so I found this model on Printables. It's by a creator named Fabian. I'm going to call him Fabian Guerrero. That sounds good enough. Boy, yeah. Anyway, I found this model, Printables. I'll have it linked in the description below if you want to print it out for yourself. We're going to be using the Elegoo PETG. I've changed the settings around a little bit just to match my Elegoo settings, but also keeping the pressure advance for the Qidi. It does require a little bit more. We're going to slice this up. I'm going to print it at full size with 2 walls, 3 top layers, 3 bottom layers, and 15% adaptive cubic infill. We're going to use a total of 258 grams, or right around there. Take about 6 hours to complete. Again, this is out of the Elegoo PETG. They're rapid PETG, so it's going to be shiny. Hit upload, send this on over to the Qidi. So you can see in real time here just how quick the nozzle is heating up. The downside to the Qidi is the bed takes quite a bit of time to heat up when compared to the nozzle. Considering the thickness of this bed, though, when compared to some of the other machines, I'd say that's pretty fair. So I'm just going to let this Qidi do its thing for the next 6 hours. We will come back when it is done printing, take a look at it, and then we can load up the matte PETG from Sunlu, print out the exact same model, and compare the two of them.
A few inches later.
So I let this thing do its thing overnight, and, well, I came back down to this and this. These parts here were printed on top, similar to that. I pulled them apart, obviously, but we got a little clog in the extruder. Let's see if we can fix it. So these are the +4 nozzles. Look at that bad boy. Got this preheated right now. I'm going to loosen up that old nozzle, pull it out, and take a look at what we've got going on. Then we'll probably just replace it with this one since I've got one here. So the nozzle has been replaced. I've got filament up here that is currently being pulled in. And there we go. No more clicking, no more clogs. All right, I'm going to get the front cover put back onto this, and we can get to printing something else out. I am not going to be printing this out again because it took 6 hours and used almost 250 grams of filament, and I don't want to waste that much filament, so we're going to print something a little bit more simple. But you'll still be able to see the difference. One thing I thought was really weird, like you can see the shininess on the outside, right? But the inside is more shiny, at least in person. I don't know. Let's figure out something else to print out with this Sunlu PETG. Okay, so I found this model on MakerWorld from Celtino CZ. This one's pretty cool because if you've ever mixed epoxy before, you'll know that most of the time the containers you find for it are pretty deep, and a lot of times you can end up over mixing epoxy and then end up with way too much. So I'm going to do the base here in Bambu Labs PETG HF over on the FlashForge Adventure 5M Pro, because that's what I've got loaded into it right now. I've got the red loaded into the Qidi, so might as well print the little spatulas with the Qidi. And then after that's done, we'll print out some of the cups with Sunlu's matte PETG in white. This is pre-sliced for the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon, but since we're doing this on the Qidi, we are going to focus on this plate. I'm going to have to come in here and change all of these to the right filament. Just going to click on each of them, press number 1 on the keyboard. You can see if I press 2, it changes it to white. If I press 1, it goes to the Bambu Lab. I have found the settings for the Bambu Lab PETG HF to work perfect with the Qidi matte PETG. Let's change this to 0.20 layer height. I'm only going to do 3 walls, 3 top and bottom, and 15% adaptive cubic infill. This should not take too long at all. 26 minutes and 41 seconds. We've got our filament loaded up. We can hit upload. And the next thing that I would like to do is new project, load our file back into here and change over to the FlashForge for this guy. Same scenario, 3 walls, 3 top and bottom. I'm going to do 15% adaptive cubic infill, except this time I'm going to print it at a 0.26 layer height to take about an hour and 23 minutes. And you can see in the back there, I've got the spool of Bambu PETG HF loaded up into the 5M Pro. I am running the Clipper mod on this. If you would like to install this Clipper mod for yourself, so you've got a little bit more functionality, tuning, bed mesh, all that stuff in here, I'll link Zero.Command's video down in the description below. He's got an awesome tutorial on getting your printer set up with the Clipper firmware. So I know what some of you were probably thinking, why are you printing stuff out on the 5M Pro when this was supposed to be a video on the Plus 4? Well, because I have more than one printer and it'll make this process go quicker. I don't have any black from sunlu, so the filaments that I'm looking at today or really paying attention to are going to be the red matte PETG compared to the Elegoo Rapid PETG. Then I also have some Overture PETG in white that I have in the filler dryer right now, and we can compare that to Sunlu's matte PETG in white. These just finished up on the +4. All of them came out looking just great. These might be a little bit of a pain to get off the build plate. I'm going to pull this off. And, well, let's set it down and see if we can't get these off. I'm going to snap the build plate and see if they pop. Just as I was expecting. I might have to go searching for some of these. Prefer not to touch the build plate. So I'm just going to take this scraper here and come in from behind. I know you're there. I can see you budging. There you go. Build plate's all clean. We can throw it back into the machine. Just take an initial look at what we've got here. The color's a little bit different, but you can see clearly which one is shiny and which one is not. Even with just this little bit here. So maybe our little test is gonna work out in the end. Problem is, if you see way down there, that's where one of our little spatulas went. So I'm gonna have to go around and search for these. Well, I suppose we'll find out how many of them flew away when this guy is finished. Looking pretty good. So I'm gonna swap this out now for the Overture PETG. That is what I've got sitting in the dryer right now. I'm just going to feed it straight through the filler dryer and into the Qidi. Can pull that guy out and feed our filament in the tube. So I haven't checked out in here if Overture has a filament profile for their PETG. One would think, but looks like all they've got is ABS, PLA, and matte PLA. It's very interesting. I wonder why. So I've got Qidi's generic PETG profile loaded up on Orca Slicer for the +4. We're using Overture's standard PETG for printing these first initial ones. Then we'll switch it over to the Sunlu matte PETG. So I can't make any guarantees about how this is going to print. I've never tried this PETG before on this machine, and historically speaking, with the Overture PETG, I've not had the greatest success with it. So you're going to be just as surprised as I am with how these turn out. Our base for these are looking real good on the Flash Forge. I gotta say, I love matte sheens. I'm not really one for shiny anything. So when Bamboo came out with this, I was like, yep, that's my go-to. Then when I saw that Sunlu had their own matte PETG, I was like, I should probably test this stuff out too, because I hate shiny filaments and I use PETG a lot now. So finding filaments that aren't shiny is great. The more options, the better too. If Bamboo is ever out of their filament, I can always go to Sunlu. In fact, I prefer this red PETG from Sunlu, I think, over Bamboo's PETG HF, just because it works so well on the fiber laser. It's got some sort of different makeup in it, and I can get pretty much white engravings on this, whereas with the PETG HF, I'm pretty much getting a slightly tinted red engraving. It's still great, but this works a little bit better. I'm curious to see how some of these other colors work too, but that's not what this video is about. One thing I notice about this filament that I've noticed for quite some time, every time I print with it actually, pretty quickly it starts to accumulate stuff around the nozzle. You can see it already. Doesn't happen with any of the other PETGs. Even the black PETG from Overture, this didn't happen. But I'm going to let this thing roll, and we're going to see how it looks at the end, assuming nothing gets messed up. This guy just finished up on +4. These didn't turn out bad. Definitely some stringing there, probably due to it being not the perfect flow ratio, but the rest of these look okay. They seem a little bit weak. Like if I can, I can just pull it right up off the build plate, actually. This one actually doesn't show very much shininess in it at all. So I am going to reprint these using our matte PETG in white. I got to unload the overture from the +4, then we'll get these on their way. It didn't take very long at all. About 45 minutes for all 10 of these. And on the same note, this guy is finished as well. Of course, it looks awesome out of Bamboo's PETG HF. So, we can take our little spatulas here and load this thing up. My guess is I'm going to be missing a couple of them. Move that thing out of the way. Oh, that's cool. I didn't even realize that. There's a couple different sizes of the spatulas too. So some of them have this wider edge and then others have this real narrow one. Now that blows my mind. I did not lose any of them. All right. And these should just slide right into here. Something tells me those are supposed to be a little straighter, but all in all, not bad. Nice little color arrangement there. Whenever you need to mix up a tiny little bit of epoxy for whatever reason, pull it off, grab yourself one of the spatulas, and you're good to go. All right, the sunlu just finished up. I'll get it off the build plate once again. And take a look at how it came out. Right off the bat, one thing I noticed is it's far cleaner, a little bit lighter if you look at the color compared to the overture. If we put them side by side, that's a easier way to see the difference. The overture is on top, that's just the standard PETG, and then the sunlu is on the bottom. So it's not quite a pure white, it's more of a little bit of an off-white. And as far as the sheen goes, they're pretty much the same. I don't really notice any difference. You know, one thing I'm noticing actually, that may be my own fault. I printed this with three top and bottom layers. Although that shouldn't matter. It's only a certain thickness, right? It can't get any thicker than the model itself. What I was thinking was because I printed this with 3 top and bottom layers instead of the 5 like I did over here on the overture, that I honestly just remembered that. I was thinking maybe that's why we can see my fingers come through there. But again, there's no sparse infill in the middle there. That's only about 0.5 millimeter or 1 millimeter thick on the bottom. So we could have put 10 bottom layers. It was still only going to do as thick as the model actually is. So it is a little bit more translucent. Maybe that's the right word for it. The sunlu matte PETG is a little bit more translucent than your standard PETG. Since we printed these, I figure I might as well put them to use and see how they work. All right, I'm going to do this over on the CNC table so I don't get anything else all dirty. Epoxy is known to make a mess, so throw on some gloves first. And I guess I'm just going to stick these 2 pieces of MDF together. So we can take one of our cups out. Let's see. Let's find one, maybe this size. Blow the dust out of there. Guess I should show you what I'm using first. This is the G5 5-minute adhesive resin from West Systems, and this is the hardener. So we're just going to mix a 1-to-1 ratio. Don't need very much. This stuff is a little bit past its prime. As you can see, the color of the hardener is starting to change, but for the purposes of this video, it should be fine. Then we can take our little spatula, mix it all up. Then, should just be able to take it and apply it right onto our surface. That's all she wrote. Obviously, this is a one-time use thing unless you really scrape the base of this out. at least the spatulas are a one-time use. You could probably use these containers over again after they've fully cured, but I don't know that I'd risk it. If there's any uncured resin in there, you might mix up your ratio. So look at these as one-time use things, but they really don't cost that much. For 10 of them, it was 50 cents or something. Let's stop talking and smush this piece together. So we get a little bit of coverage there. Squeeze it together. Typically, you'd throw a clamp on it, but I'm not going to do that for the purposes of this video. You can see we have a little bit of epoxy coming out the side there. I'm just going to let that sit for a few minutes. We'll come back and see if this stuff is still actually good.
A few moments later.
All right, it's been about 5 minutes or so, and coming back to it, even down here at the base, you can see it start to lift up. I know this isn't an epoxy video, but just want to show you how the epoxy works. If you haven't seen it before, it's super quick for this 5-minute adhesive. Like, you could probably twist it and get it off of there, maybe. No, that's stuck, and it's just from that tiny little spot that we put in the middle there. Anyway, that's what these are for. They came out great. Let's move on. So I've got my test results. They work really well for the purpose of this video. Not that I really was doing this video to see how well an epoxy spreader would do, but we did it anyways. The Sunlu Matte PETG, aside from being a little bit more translucent, still comes out great quality. Before Sunlu even sent over the Matte PETG, I had already purchased a couple spools, so I was pretty familiar with the quality of it and how it was going to print. Although I hadn't tried the orange or the white yet, I still have not tried orange, but I plan to do that pretty soon. So our results here from the Elegoo, aside from the Qidi's nozzle getting clogged up for whatever reason overnight while this was printing, you can see it's a very shiny, reflective filament. Then when you compare it to these guys, again, not a fair size comparison in terms of the models we printed, but you can see there's really no reflective properties to it at all. Sometimes with a satin or even the bamboo, you'll see a little bit of a reflection from the lights, but this stuff it's matte. Of course, we also printed with the Overture PETG. That came out fine, aside from the first one on the plate had a little bit of stringing in between. Could have been from filament getting clogged up around the nozzle and then dropping off. Happens quite a bit with PETG. And then we switched over to the Sunlu PETG, which if we put them side by side once again, we've got Overture on the bottom and Sunlu on the top. Definitely see the Sunlu is more translucent. I know this isn't the usual type of video that I put out, but going forward, I'm going to be doing more variation in content instead of just going through, day-to-day life here in the print farm, because it gets pretty repetitive and people want to see more than that, right? If you enjoyed today's video and feel I've earned your subscription, I would appreciate it if you smash that subscribe button down below. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up so YouTube knows you enjoy this type of content. I've got some new pictures that I want to take of some of this stuff. I mentioned it in one of the previous videos, so we are going to be doing that in an upcoming video. If you want to see how I take the pictures, get them edited and thrown into Etsy, hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload that video. Oh, and the little elephant in the room here. I don't have an H2D. Guess Bamboo didn't want to send one to me. But if you want to see what the H2D is like, go check out my buddy Sam's channel over at Samcraft. He did a full unboxing and setup initial print at like 3 o'clock in the morning the other day just to get the video out. So if you want to see that printer in action, first prints, go check out Sam's channel. I will have a link down in the description below. I will see you all in the next video, folks. Take care. Welcome back, folks. Today I'm going to be before Sunlu even sent the Bamboo